right, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's 7:06 p.m. Director, please call the roll.
Commissioner Incheck. Commissioner Fettner.
Here.
Commissioner Nanis.
Here.
Commissioner Henry. Commissioner Mantis. Vice Chair Kirsch.
Present.
Chair Moore.
Present.
We have a quorum. I recognize Alex Mendoza, student rep, as well as Autumn Fallis, student rep. In addition, Annette Littler, City Council liaison, is here this evening, as is Corporation Counsel Marcus Martinez. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, first item on our agenda is the minutes from the last meeting, which was a special meeting on April 1st. So can we get a motion?
I move approval.
All right,
Second.
and a second down there by Commissioner Fettner. Do we have any comments on the minutes? Any concerns?
I would just note, Chair, as you noted, it was a special meeting. It was not a regular meeting. And so with that small change, I recommend that you all would approve the minutes reflecting a special meeting.
Yes. So that amendment meets everyone's satisfaction? All right, all in favor of approving the meetings for the special meeting on April 1st?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No nays, motion passes. Okay. All right, the first item on our list is an amendment to a sign package at 777 to 825 Park Avenue West. That is also the Highland Park Hospital. And I don't believe this is not a hearing, so I don't need to read the script.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay. All righty, take it away.
Carl, you want to pull up attachments?
Oh, of
2 and
course.
3, and then
Okay.
PowerPoint presentation.
So everyone, this is a Planner 1, Anthony Mistretta with the City of Highland Park, the Planning Division, Community Development Department. And then you want,
Attachments 2 and 3, sorry,
okay.
just in case it needs to be brought up.
Oh, okay. Which are like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, and then the clicker is, where's the clicker? Here's the clicker.
There you go. Needs to turn it on.
Oh, right there. All right.
Here we go, sir.
All right, good evening again. My name is Anthony Mistretta, Planner 1 with the City Community Development Department, here to speak on behalf of the project for the Highland Park Hospital sign package amendment, which occupies 777 through 825 Park Avenue West. It is zoned for the healthcare district. It is the only property within the city that is zoned for the healthcare district. It is nestled on the northwest corner of Midlothian and Park Avenue West. And there's an aerial site map, you can see of it. It's also provided on the report front page. They do have an existing sign package which accounts for 25 total signs. 22 of them currently are non-illuminated. 3 of them are internally illuminated. Accounts for 13 monument ground signs, 9 on-site informational signs, and 3 wall signs that are illuminated. The original sign package was signed into order in 2008, and it was amended to allow an additional wall sign in 2011. This is the site map that was provided as an exhibit. You can find it in the staff report as well. This kind of points out where all of the signs are, and you'll see in the staff report, Commission, that you'll see EO1, EO2, EO3. If you want to, follow along the site map, you can, of course, look at this and see where the sign that is being amended is actually located. And then this was provided by the applicant, so resolution I know is a little bit hard to see, but you get the general idea of where everything is. So some of the amendments, it's going to affect 18 of the 25 signs will be amended in one way or another due to the rebranding. This is mostly rebranding from North Shore Health System to Endeavor Health. And there will be 16 of those signs will be illuminated. And the proposed radius wall signs will now have a different style of illumination as they did before. And This is just an overview of the changes. There's no changes to the total number of signs allowed. They're not proposing any new signs, but they are reducing their total square footage by 327 feet. And they are going from 3 internally illuminated signs to now 10 internally illuminated signs. This is E01. You'll see it on your site map. This is on the corner of Park Avenue West and Midlothian. On the left side, you could see a 5x12 sign that was originally there. It's now going to be a 12x6 internally illuminated sign, monument ground sign. And that's just the way it's going to look. It will shine with an inverse negative at night. And then this is another example of how they're doing the monument ground signs. Pretty much staying almost similar with the sizes, but going a little smaller in this case with the monument ground signs. But again, it will be internally illuminated. And these are the standards for sign packages. I won't go over these in too much detail. And then obviously PDC has authority over the sign package. PDC should discuss this, and we recommend that carefully review and discuss the proposed changes to the sign package as well as any additional conditions you want to propose. Do you have any questions for staff?
Do you have any questions for staff? No.
The landscaping requirements, are they just going to replace the signs and leave the existing landscaping? That's what the renderings look like?
That is correct.
So we don't have to, that's all compliant, correct?
That is correct.
Landscaping.
And I would add to that as well, that in the applicant's packet, they indicate in writing that they would just comply by right with the square footage requirement as well. And so if and when this comes in for permit, if that's not met, this will have to come back to the commission.
And then just out of curiosity, the doors to the women's hospital, those are signs that are on that glass? Is that what we're looking at?
Do you know what page it was on?
Oh, good gosh, I don't have.
This,
I think that's part of the sign package.
this one where it says Women's Hospital?
That was originally approved and it was included,
Package page 31.
but I don't
So
think that.
E09.
I find it odd that the decals on the door are part of the sign package, but
Well, that was the whole sign package originally, that they said, here's all the signs we want on our property. We're only changing a few of them today.
Yes. There was no actual amendment to the sign package for the actual decals. That's why it wasn't included there. So any additional questions for staff?
No, it's just the monument signs, correct?
The monument signs, there's wall signs that are also going to change. And you can see that on the sign package amendment page, they're actually signs, they are signs 5 and 6, I want to say. The applicant can also answer that too.
I mean, arguably, the ground signs / monument signs are those that have the most impact because those are located along the periphery of the property.
Yes.
As where a lot of the other signage is located within the interior of the property. And even though it'll be visible from internal public ways, may not necessarily be visible from the streets.
I've got no other questions.
Okay, and then I just want to clarify that on page, where did it go? Page, packet page 12, at the top, there's a paragraph under proposed amendments. And towards there. So that top paragraph, towards the bottom, it says, the proposed internally illuminated radius wall signs will have black channel letters, and that's meant to be black, that's not meant to be block, correct? Okay,
Correct.
okey dokey. All right, any more do we have any questions, comments for staff? All right, would the applicant like to come up?
Hi, good evening. My name is Jeremy Hall, here on behalf of Endeavor Health, formerly North Shore University Health Systems. The hospital asked me to stop by today and really answer any questions that you guys might have as to the why or how we arrived at the sign package that you have in front of you today. Additionally, Matt over here is with the sign company and can answer any technical questions that you might have about the signs. So ultimately, I don't have a large presentation package. We can go through each sign individually if you would like. But I think you guys have highlighted in general the changes that are being made. The goal was to really improve wayfinding for the folks that are coming to the site. And you'll see that on a number of signs, we actually shrunk them down because there was superfluous information on there that wasn't assisting wayfinding, or it was directing people through the neighborhood rather than, through the site. So the sign at Midlothian and Park Avenue is a little bigger than the previous sign. The goal of that is to bring people through the site rather than through the neighborhood. So you'll see that the Women's Hospital and some of the other areas now referred to as health centers versus medical office buildings previously. Those are all being directed now through the site. And then the sign to the west of that simply indicates emergency room. So the only traffic that you would want to drive through the neighborhood any longer is people who are truly traveling for an emergent nature to get to the emergency room. So that generally defines the monument signage. Some of the post and panels were updated throughout the site to reflect, or more accurately reflect, what was on site, specifically this idea that things are now called health centers, and they've now been addressed so that as people arrive into the site interior, they can wayfind so they don't get into the wrong spot. And then the last big section of them were the couple wall signs. And again, that was just changing the verbiage to Women's Hospital. It'll appear black during the day and it'll shine white at night. That is a service that's open 24 hours a day and a door that's open. And so they wanted to direct people to the appropriate location when they arrived. Really everything else is, generally speaking, a like-for-like replacement. Again, some of the monument signs that were more robust monuments are now post and panel signs, but they all represent the same information and just a little bit more clean way to present that information. So again, we're here to really answer any questions that you might have and address any concerns.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. Do I understand correctly that we're increasing the amount of illuminated signs?
So-
From 3 to 10, I think?
Just to be clear, when we say illuminated signs, it's internally illuminated signs. So the bulk of the signs on site are already illuminated via ground lighting. The goal is to actually take that lighting, put it inside of the sign, so that at night, only the important information actually shows up. So
It seemed odd to me that there were only 3 illuminated signs.
So they're ground illuminated versus internally illuminated today, whereas in the future, they will all be internally illuminated.
Got it. Makes sense. Okay.
And then the letters are actually an acrylic that pushes through the sign, so that all that you see light-wise at night is the actual letters that are being illuminated.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, I recognize Corporation Counsel Hannah Said
Yes,
has joined us.
thank you.
Just wanted to say that.
All right, do we have any questions from the public for this project? So if you have a question, you can come up and ask it to me and we will direct it to the proper person. All right, why don't you come up and speak at the microphone, please?
And Chair, just to clarify, that it's a question or a comment,
Or a comment.
and a comment, either one, either or, and both if you want.
Okay, please state your name.
Hi, I'm Jordana Tomanson.
Okay, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Yes. THOMADSEN. I was just here, because I'm a neighbor and I wanted to make sure the little notice said something about a landscaping plan. And I heard the question and I appreciate the question. But I just wanted to clarify and ask that no changes to landscaping will be made.
That's correct.
Okay, that was it. Thank you. Okay, like trees and.
Correct, yes. So if anything's disturbed, we'll put the same thing back. But the intention is not to disturb anything that we don't need to.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right. So I think we'd be looking here for a,
Madam Chair, if I
yes,
may?
please.
I would move that we approve the amendment as drafted to the sign package for 777 through 825 Park Avenue West.
All right, approval motion by Commissioner Vice Chair
second.
Kirch, and seconded by Commissioner Futterman. All right, any more discussion about the motion? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Fettner,
Yes.
Commissioner Nanis,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Aye.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
The ayes have it, the motion carries, this item has been approved. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I think.
All right, the next item is a final plat of re-subdivision with variations at 107 and 119 Ridge Road. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, Chair. That will be me.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park with the Planning Division and the Community Development Department. So this is a presentation for a request for a minor plat of subdivision with variations for these two properties on Ridge Road. Staff recommend the commission consider the request for minor subdivision with variations and make a recommendation to city council. So the commission's a recommendation body. This will end up going to city council. If appropriate, the commission can adopt findings of fact recommending approval. There are findings of fact in the packet as a courtesy, not as a recommendation by staff, if the commission wants to act this evening. This is an aerial of the site, property on the north, it's bigger, property on the south. So one thing I want to make very clear, there are two zoning lots there right now, one on the north, one on the south. They both have a home. What's proposed is still two zoning lots, one on the north, albeit that will be bigger, and then one on the south that will be smaller. So essentially what this project requests is this that this property to the north wants to acquire this portion from the property to the south, making this property smaller. And of course, for property owners to do that and to have the city recognize the properties as zoning lots, they have to go through the re-subdivision process. So then I'll just point out that the property on the south is still four-sided, but the property on the north will no longer be four-sided. It will be more, and hence a variation that's needed from the subdivision code. Both lots will be compliant with the R6 zoning district standard. So even with these changes, they'll still both meet the minimum width and the minimum lot area for the R6 zoning district. So there are technically two variations, though I do want to make a comment. So the first one I just said, the proposed north lot will have more than four sides, and that's a new situation, that's a variation. There is also technically a variation to the established property width average. However, I do want to make a comment about that. That's already an existing situation, and the proposal does not make that situation more extent. The widths are not changing. The widths are still going to be the same. Even with this change back here, well, actually, if anything, that would make the north property more conforming, but the width is measured somewhere at the middle of lot depth, so like side to side. So it's not, even though that's technically a variation, it's a current existing non-conforming situation. There are no city or utility agency objections to this proposal. Oh, this just gets back to the established property width. I can go through this if there are questions. This information's also in the packet. This is the standard for variations that the commission and the council ought to consider. Variations from these regulations shall not be granted as a right. However, the Plan Commission may recommend and the City Council may grant variations from the regulations contained in the subdivision code in specific cases which do not affect the general plan or the spirit of the subdivision code. Such recommendations shall be communicated to the City Council in writing. That's why there's findings of fact in the packet. The only other thing I will add, and then of course, take questions if there are any. I do want to point out that when these subdivisions are proposed, the properties must also comply with current zoning. So they must still comply with FAR, they must still comply with the setbacks. Well, in the north, that's a non-issue, it's getting bigger. So whatever the situation was, it's theoretically becoming more in compliance with the R6 bulk standards. On the south, it's getting smaller, but the applicant did provide information verifying that that property will continue to comply with the FAR and setback standards. I can take questions if there are any.
So the only reason on the first variation is because it's not going to be four-sided anymore?
That's right.
Okay.
And these are related parties who are asking for this, is that correct?
So I will have, if the applicant hears, I'll have them speak to that. I spoke with my colleague, Planner 2, Patrick Hoffman, who did the primary review of this, and the city received proof of ownership and signature of ownership on the application.
Any more questions for staff?
Question for the staff. Has anything like this ever come through the committee or any of your desks before? Like an aspect like this?
In general, over the last few years, there's been a handful of replats to alter property lines between neighbors or consolidations where there are these types of, broadly, the best answer I can give that is broadly, yes, kind of. But every situation is its own unique set of circumstances. I'll just say that if the commission were to recommend approval of this variation, that would not be the first time that's been recommended in my career here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions for staff? All right, can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. My name is David Meek. I'm the applicant's attorney. The applicants are family members. Sheila Eisenberg lives at 119 Ridge. She's the matriarch of the family, if you will. Sons and other family members are members of an LLC that owns 107 Ridge, which has been a rental property for a number of years. They've wanted to market the property for sale, but also kind of create some or maintain some affordable housing in the neighborhood. And their broker had suggested that if there was less land area in relation to the small house, it would actually become a more marketable home for that kind of preservation of housing stock in Highland Park. That's the gist of why they're doing this. So they're reducing the land area, maintaining a smaller, creating a smaller lot that can help maintain, which is a perfectly nice house on the property. And that was the genesis of this. And to do so, they thought, well, we could take some land area away in the back. And they worked with their broker to kind of come up with what was probably a good balance of house to land for purposes of keeping it affordable, more affordable, and it has actually borne fruit in terms of their marketing of the property for sale, and they're under contract to sell it in this configuration.
Now, the way I looked at it was that by making lot 2 smaller, you control the size of house that can be placed on there. That's true. It's the way I see it.
That could be a result, yes, but as
So
a
that is-
property owner, they thought about it in terms of having a housing stock that was
Yeah.
more, smaller. And yes, that you could build more house than is there now,
Right.
even with the smaller lot.
Right, okay. Does the commission have any questions here for the applicant?
So the only purpose of this re-subdivision, I mean, you don't have any use for that extra backyard?
There's no intent to expand the house. The pool is there. There's no real basis to do anything in the back there. This is not like a flag lot or something where you'd have another buildable land area for another house. It's just, it's sort of heavily treed in the back there. It's kind of not even part of the yard. It's just trees. And there's no intent to increase the size of the residence at 119.
Lot 2 is still a conforming lot to the current
Correct.
zoning
Yeah,
district?
we provided a separate zoning exhibit that demonstrated that all the setbacks, FAR is still, there's still plenty of buildable land area, still setback. The existing garage is compliant with your setback regulations.
So the thinking from your real estate agent or consultants was that if you just sold the lot as is, it will become a tear down, that's correct?
I would let Peter Eisenberg speak to that, but that's, I think, part of, I would presume that is implicitly what they were thinking, that it might be more of a tear down, and it's a perfectly good house that they've maintained and they've been renting, but now they have an opportunity with their renter to market it for sale.
So what happens down the line? Would be, and that's all well and good in this arrangement for the north homeowner, but what happens when they leave or sell their house, then and somebody else wants to do something?
Well, but I don't know that that's part of.
I'm all for affordable housing, don't get me wrong. I think this is a very unusual situation, and, to create a non-four-sided lot, and when I don't see any other lots, at least in the overview that we got, which wasn't the entire neighborhood, but a good chunk of it, this would stick out and create a space in the back of the smaller house that apparently no one will use. So I understand the purpose and the logic, but I'm wondering if that's a justification to do this.
Well, I would push back on that respectfully, that this is before you as a variation because it's a slightly different configuration, but people do lot line adjustments all the time in communities to give more space to one lot and by somebody else agreeing to give up space on their property, and thus you create different future building situations and opportunities. This one happens to need, because of just they're starting out as rectangular lots, or principally rectangular. This one would to affect that, you couldn't really change the width if somebody was trying to gain more area. This is not about gaining area to create more building space. And I think for purposes of the request, it's the current situation that I hope you can take into account. There's an existing house that's a modern house with a pool in the back that's not going to be replaced anytime soon. This was, there have been prior exchanges of land in this neighborhood before. My client's telling me that there's a situation to the north. If we had the aerial, you could see there's something similar to this in terms of lot configuration. Is that correct, Peter? And it's not creating a flag lot by doing this just because it's there's sort of an L shape to it. Flag lots are a totally different beast, and that's not what's going on here. Yeah. So we think the request is justifiable. It's not, the prohibition on lots that are not, or the requirement that lots be four-sided is really, I would argue, a directive towards the planning of new subdivision areas. So there are then need to come in for variations when you look at how over time and history properties have developed through exchanges that might have avoided the platting requirements, maybe predating current code. The four-sided lot is to try to encourage some uniformity in the creation of new subdivided areas, but it's also applicable in these re-subdivisions. This is a lot line adjustment.
I have a question. I want to make sure I have this right. The minimum lot area in the zoning district is 7,260 square feet. Mm-hmm. Even after the subdivision, the re-subdivision, that smaller lot would still be 11,658?
Correct.
Okay. And then the front yard, the minimum requirement in the zoning district is 25 feet. Proposed, it would still be 48 feet, mm-hmm. Correct? Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's still, even after the re-subdivision, it's still a little bit larger than the minimum requirements in the zoning
Correct,
district? Okay.
correct. And there's more buildable area in the back of the yard too. So a
Yeah.
larger house could be built on this property.
Okay.
And there's not the ability, in terms of this concern, there wouldn't be the ability to re-subdivide 119 further to create 2 lots. It's not, that's not feasible under your code. There's not enough lot width for that. And so there's not the fear that this would become a 3-lot subdivision. And you have a prohibition on flag lots, so nothing's going to be built in the back. So I don't think it's incentivizing something more than basically the preservation of an existing situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Questions from the public?
Do we discuss or?
We could discuss.
I don't really have an issue with it because I live in that neighborhood and I know a lot of those lots are probably more common to the smaller one. I mean, it's still, based on the minimum requirements, it's still fairly large. You know, I'm really focusing on the smaller one and what effect that would have. But I'd like to hear what you guys say, but I don't see an issue with it.
Personally, I like to see if there's like, when we grant a variation, I think there should be like, showing a substantial need. And the way I see this is not so much that we're preserving a smaller lot for, you know, a lower income family to move in. I see it more as if we make that lot smaller, then somebody can't put too big of a house next door to us. And it's a way to like control who's gonna be next door to me. I know they could build a bigger house, but it does change the size that that house could be and the impact on 109 or 119. So, did you want to comment?
Yeah, so respectfully, I don't think it's appropriate to inject standards into the variation that don't exist under your code. The standard for the variation is consistency, essentially consistency with the spirit and intent of the subdivision code, which I think we've demonstrated. Nothing's non-compliant other than that, one variation. And it's not a changing of the zoning, it's still an R6.
Right.
And we could control the future use of the house by not selling it.
Right.
I mean, right, so I think that those considerations, I would ask that you not inject the standard of review that doesn't exist under law
Okay,
for the
thank you.
granting of consideration of this.
I have a question for staff, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
When I was on zoning board, our standards for variations, we had 7 standards that everything had to meet. Different for a variation to subdivision, right? Okay, so it's just this one standard.
It is, yep, this is the standard. So this is distinct from chapter 150, which is the city's zoning code. This is a separate chapter of city code. This is chapter 151, the subdivision code, and hence a different standard here than you would find for zoning requests.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One question, in the back of the property, is that a street back there or does that back up to another piece of property?
This is another piece. It's a park.
It's a park, okay. Okay. Any more questions? All right, so I guess we would be looking for.
Chair.
Oh,
Can we see if anyone from the
oh, sorry.
public?
Do we have anybody from the public who would wish to comment on this or have a question? All right, no comments from the public. All right, so I guess, is this findings of fact we have here? Yes. So are we looking to adopt the findings of fact?
If that's
Recommending
what the
approval or?
Right, so staff has that merely as a courtesy to the applicant. We provide findings of fact for minor plats. And so that's just if the commission is in favor and wants to adopt that as a recommendation of approval, then the commission can do that. Of course, that's not a recommendation from staff.
Correct. All right, so does the commission wish to have more discussion? Are they ready to propose a motion.
I'll move to direct staff to draft findings of fact approving the minor, was it the minor re-subdivision?
Well, we have findings of fact, so we would be adopting the findings of fact, recommending approval.
Okay, exactly.
Like she said.
All right,
Second.
and we have a second over here by Commissioner Nanis. All right, any more discussion? I feel that we've had a lot.
I just, sorry, I don't like it.
Okay.
I can't, if it's not to the right standard, I'm going to apologize in advance, but I think this just sets up a problem down the line that I'm not willing to go down that road.
All right, so Director Fontaine, do you want to call the roll?
Commissioner Fettner,
Yes.
Commissioner Nanis,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch,
Nay.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
The vote is 3-1. The ayes have it. The motion carries. This item is recommended for approval to the City Council. Thank you.
All right. Okay, the next item is,
No, it can't, because there needs to be a notice for that, and we didn't know for sure what would happen. It has to be May 12th.
public hearing PUD 2024-00029 for a special use permit in the nature of a preliminary plan development with modifications from city code at 734 Central Avenue. This is already open, so I do not need to read the introduction. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, thank you, Chair. One moment here, I'm just looking for my clicker. Did my colleague abscond with it? It's okay, I have an alternative means.
That's crazy.
Where did the clicker go? Oh, there it is, I have it. Okay, apologies. Okay, my name is Carl Burhop. I am a senior planner with the City of Highland Park and the Community Development Department for the Planning Division. This is a continuation of this public hearing for preliminary plan development for a multifamily development at 734 Central Avenue. So this is the third meeting for this. This is for a 6-story building. It's 4 stories of residential, a 5th step back story of residential, and then a 6-story on the 6th floor for rooftop access structures. This was on the February 4th and March 18th. It is now today on the April 15th meeting. The commission did direct findings, the commission did direct findings of fact recommending approval. Staff did draft those, those are in the packet if appropriate. Okay, so I'll just run through really quick. What are the changes? What did the applicant change? So there were 2 staff comments for the applicant to follow up, I believe, and one of them was the that code requirement right there, limiting 40% of the area of the front 40 feet along a front property line to parking cannot be over that. The applicant did provide a diagram indicating that they will be over that. So that would be part of the modification request. And of course, this was identified in prior staff reports. So this is not something new necessarily. This is just staff and the applicant verifying what the case is. This is a modified first floor plan. This is the garage floor. So the applicant, they bubbled it. It's in the bottom right-hand corner. And so they changed this in here. I don't know, actually, in hindsight, I should have had what was the last plan. But what happened is the applicant moved kind of where I believe the staircase and the storage space was, someone in this area. And so by moving that, they relocated the ADA space. And then also they were able to get one more parking space. So they're going to go from 20 proposed to 21. And they were not asking for off-street parking relief. They were requesting a 15% parking reduction based on proximity to a bus stop. But with that request, they were not requesting parking relief, but with this change, they're going to go from 20 to 21 parking spaces. These parking movement, red diagram, that was already in the previous packet. I don't believe that's new. Okay, so they made changes. So I have 2 bullet points here. The second one, the verification of glazing requirements. I decided not to put that in my presentation. It was in the packet, of course. It was in the packet for review, and the applicant just verified they'll meet the glazing, which is the glass or transparency requirement for every floor, which is 20% or more. And then on this elevation, they added the pergolas on top. And though you can't read it on here, if you go into the packet where you can, of course, zoom in on your computer, it showed materials proposed for the pergolas. The applicant also updated 2 new renderings, which I have both. So this is a rendering of the proposal. If you were standing approximately at that sidewalk location, kind of to the northwest, because this is looking southeast. And so this gives you an idea of what it would look like right now as you go down Central towards downtown. And then this looks the other way. This looks as if you're going west down Central. And of course, you can see that building across the street, across McGovern, is already there. That's already been built. Lighting. So staff does have a follow-up on the lighting. The applicant did submit exterior lighting. It appears that everything is 3,000 Kelvin CCT. Of course, that is a standard condition of approval for the commission and council if this is approved. I want to emphasize that no uplight is allowed. I did talk about the applicant. I did speak with the applicant on this, and I would expect that they would also comment to the commission on this, because if you look at the exterior lighting, there is a band of lighting between the 2nd and 3rd floor that's wall mounted that does have uplights that washes up. I would expect the applicant speak for themselves, but I spoke to them and indicated that that would be highly recommended against. The applicant does need to verify the bug ratings, though if they get rid of the uplighting, that would at least take care of the U part. They should verify the B and the G, the backlight and the glare. The foot candles do need to be verified. So the applicant did provide a foot candle sheet. I think they're called photometric sheets. However, there's no property lines on it. I did look at it. I suspect that they will need foot candle relief. However, having said that, I will say 2 things about that. Along the north side, it is Central Avenue, and Central Avenue is not a residential street at this location. It's I don't even think it's a collector. It's some type of arterial, and that's Sunset Foods across the street, and there is street lighting already there washing. So I would state that the foot candles at that property line could be impacted by the street lighting on the street. Now to the west, if you look at there, and I actually wrote that here because the west is more a residential type street. Depending on where that property line falls, it's going to be there at 1, which would be compliant, or at most up to 4.5 if you look out. Again, the applicant can speak on that. Civil Tech. So in the report, I did not include Civil Tech comments. I said that staff would provide an update. I'm able to provide an update. I learned today that Civil Tech has no comments, which means no objections, which means they reviewed the applicant's updated materials and did not object or have concerns. Okay, this is the modifications. Nothing on this slide has changed. This is just a reiteration to the commission as to what the modifications are. So first and foremost is a modification for height. 51 feet is the maximum allowance, and they propose to go up to 69 feet. And then 4 stories is the maximum allowance, and they propose to go up to 6 stories. Again, the prior meetings, staff, the commission, and the applicant have discussed the context behind that. You know, there is a step back for the 5th story. The 6th story are rooftop access structures. There's also been discussion about how it's in the B45 zoning district, but the property is undersized for that, and so therefore is having to use the B44 zoning requirements. And then there's also that step back relief for the 6th floor to the rooftop accesses. Again, that hasn't changed. That's been documented in the last meetings. There's the relief to the traffic vision requirement that was discussed at prior meetings. And then there's also, as I previously stated, the request for 15% off-street parking reduction based on proximity to transit. Again, that's been discussed in prior meetings. Landscape relief, the applicant is requesting relief for 5 shade or ornamental trees. The applicant did explore planting that in the extended right-of-way to the west of the building. Our city forester stated that it was basically a no-go, but the applicant did explore that as an option. I already discussed the exterior lighting. The way it is right now, it would need a variation for the uplight and then likely for the foot candles. Staff would recommend the applicant just comply and get rid of the uplight and comply with the bugs. And as for the foot candle, that I'd put that to the commission if that's something that could be varied. And then and then this related to that 40 feet, 40% ground floor parking requirement. Again, that's been on previous commission meetings. This is just now verifying that there is a request there for relief. And then finally, just that modification to section 150.520M for the setback to the property line to the east is 0 feet. And again, that was at the prior meeting. Public benefit, the applicant is proposing $15,000 to the Downtown Streetscape Fund. Housing Commission review on April 2nd, the Housing Commission did, with unanimous recommendation for approval, indicated that the inclusionary housing plan is fully compliant with the inclusionary code. Landscaping changes. So I already stated that they need relief for the 5 trees. I do want to state that they did modify their landscaping plan, which sometimes that's for the better. So they still comply with shrubs. They're still over the limit, but they did reduce slightly. But sometimes that's for the better because that's really accounting for growth zones and where they're going to actually put these shrubs. And to an extent, they do comply with the amount of shrubs that have to be proposed. As the commission is aware, they have a 5-foot setback along the west and a 5-foot setback along the north. And they are providing 3 different shrub species as well. So there's some species diversification. This is a preliminary plan development. If the project proceeds, this is just a reminder, we'll have to come back for a final PUD. This is a public hearing. The commission should reopen the hearing, take testimony, ask if there's any public comment, ask if the applicant has any testimony, consider the application, deliberate, neither continue or if appropriate, actually there are findings of fact here. And so if appropriate, the commission can adopt those. If the commission does choose to adopt the findings of fact, I would recommend that you just amend it on the record. Staff can make the change in the findings. We would just make sure we add that 40% parking area variation on the ground floor. I would just put in that specific number in the findings of fact that go to council. And then if the commission is comfortable with the foot candles, that would also have to be an amendment as well. Though I will also reiterate, there's also the issue with the uplight, but I see what the applicant says about that. I can take questions if there are any.
Questions from the commission, anyone? All right, let's hear from the applicant then. Okay, that's public comment and that'll have to wait till after the applicant goes.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Cal Bernstein. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I also have Nate Kipnis here, who is the architect. We've been previously sworn in. And this is a continuing, and by the way, I just wanted to mention, this is a first for me at front of the Plan and Design Commission, someone wearing a Montreal Expo hat and uniform. You don't see that often, so I really appreciate that. We really don't have much to add. I mean, we've had previous meetings where we spent a lot of time on this development. It has evolved to a much better project thanks to the input of the commission. With regard to the 2 outstanding items that we are agreeable to remove the uplighting, so that would be a non-issue. And with regard to the 40% on the parking, that was, we talked about that the last meeting. We weren't sure if we needed a variation. We went back and looked, and as it turns out, we did, but nothing in the design has changed as a result. It's just that we verified and confirmed that such a variation would be required. And with regard to the lighting, that's a little bit over my pay grade, so I'm going to turn over to Nate so we can address that.
Thank you. We'll just remove those lights, and we will need to redo the photometrics, and I'm sure it'll then be in compliance at that point, because really that was the main bulk of the lighting. So, yeah, that's it.
Again, we've reviewed the findings of fact and they are acceptable to us. So we'll be requesting that you approve the findings of fact, recommending this project to the city council. And again, this is preliminary. This is for preliminary approval and not final. So we'll see you back after we do our final engineering to verify that we have substantial conformity.
All right, does anyone on the commission have a question for the applicant? No. So I do, I have a question. So the parking is on the first floor. What is screening the parking along Central Avenue? Is that actually glass there or is that something else?
So that is opaque glass.
Okay.
Similar to what McGovern House is doing or has
Okay.
done.
Oh, councilperson, I'm sorry, Littler.
Just a quick question. With the property across the street on McGovern, are they the same height?
They are the same height, taking into account the slope of the street. They're actually taller, but they're going downhill. I mean, very close.
So if you drew a line,
Yeah,
they're comparable, but you have to remember McGovern House is down the ridge. So it's actually taller from the foundation, but if you're looking down, that they match.
They do,
Because we're on higher ground.
yeah, they do communicate. You'll see the,
There's a
We have a-
rendering.
Yeah, I think there's a picture in the packet
right
here.
there.
They're right there.
Yeah, that's excellent.
There it is.
Pull it down a little. I'm just trying to find out if it's also 5 stories plus mechanicals on top.
Yeah, so it's ours, well, there's, I don't
Because
know.
yours is 6 stories with mechanicals.
Ours is 5 plus dog houses to get out onto the upper
Whatever's
floor,
on
onto
top,
the roof.
yeah.
It's really a
And the question
5-story.
is, what's across the street? Is it also,
Yeah,
6 stories.
6 stories all the way
And then
across.
you have the rooftop on top of it.
that's what I need to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had one question.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Mr. Kipnis, hi, question for you. I forgot what it was last time, the stairwell huts at the roof, what material was that being, finished with?
That is gonna be stucco.
That's a stucco to match?
Yes.
The rest, okay, that was my only question.
And we submitted, I think that was in the recent submittal.
Right.
We sent.
Yeah, great, it's a very nice building.
Thank you. Thanks. And thank you for all your help making this.
Okay, do we have any more questions from commissioners? Okay, now, yeah, I'm getting to that. If we have any public comment, you'll need to come up and to the microphone, and then we're gonna have you swear in, say your name, spell your last name, and you'll have 3 minutes. And you'll direct all the questions to me, and then if we have to ask anybody else, we will. No, you do. No, you have to come, please come up to the microphone, because otherwise the recording won't get it, and it'll be difficult for our minute taker to get it later.
Okay, my name is Sarah Bazer. I
Okay.
have lived in Highland Park for 45 years.
Okay.
I'm here for
Okay.
the next issue.
Can you
but-
please put your hand up? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Thank you.
Bazer, Sara Bazer. I just want to know if this is rental, if this is condos proposed? Is there any issues with, are any of these apartments going to be affordable housing for people?
Yes, go ahead,
And Chair,
Mr. Burns.
I just want to make sure that she has expressed all of her questions so that it's not a back and forth.
Okay, so why don't we get all your questions out and we'll answer them?
I want to know if it's rental or condos.
Okay,
Are any of them, like when the Americana was built, some of those are affordable housing? They were at the time, I don't know if they still are, where there were smaller units that were really affordable as opposed to the rentals in the newer buildings in downtown Highland Park currently.
any more questions?
No.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and answer that, Mr. Bernstein.
Thank you for that question. These are going to be for sale condominium units. Since the beginning, since we first presented it, they were always condominiums. I would also mention that the city of Highland Park has an inclusionary housing ordinance, an affordable housing ordinance. We have submitted an affordable housing plan to the city that has been reviewed by the Housing Commission. And at the beginning of April, I think it was April 2nd, the Housing Commission unanimously recommended the approval, finding that we comply with the existing regulations. So there will be one affordable unit on site. In addition, there's, I believe, a 0.8 difference, and we are paying the fee in lieu for the 0.8. Again, that was unanimously recommended by the Housing Commission.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? All right, so it is our job to determine if we would like to adopt the findings of fact with the two changes that were in there. So the 40% of the parking and the exterior, we would have to be okay with exterior lighting being possibly a little over the foot candle requirement at the property line. I don't see that there's a problem on the Central Avenue side because it's a main street and it's already street lit. I don't think anyone's gonna notice. If it's a concern along the western side, well, then it's across the street from McGovern House. I don't know that anyone's living on that floor that's gonna bother them.
Chair, may I
Yes.
make one comment?
Yes, please.
I mean, because I don't know what way the commission will lean on it, but if the commission does have concerns about any foot candle relief along the west side, you could just put the question to the applicant, will you comply with the foot candle requirement along the west side?
We could do that with the applicant. So would you guys be willing to commit to following the requirements for the foot candle requirements along the west side?
Yes, we would.
All righty,
So if I may?
you may.
I would like to move that we adopt the findings of fact, recommending approval of a special use permit in the nature of a preliminary plan development with modifications from city code for 734 Central Avenue with the condition that the 40% parking variation and the lighting review be addressed.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? And this also takes into account that they've offered that the $15,000 for the streetscape fund is their public benefit. We're all good with that? Okay.
And I want to echo my fellow commissioner, this is a difficult site. It's a wonderful building. This is what the PUD process is supposed to end up with. And I think this will be good.
Mr. Burhoff.
I always like to ask questions to make sure I'm clear on everything. Vice Chair Kurtz, just to make sure I understood your motion, that was to add the 40% parking area to the findings of fact as a modification, and then was it the exterior lighting for foot candles on the west or on the north only, right? Or what was the?
Well, you also had are we clear? Is the bug question cleared up now or
I think
not?
so. I think.
Well, no, so which means that they would have to comply going forward with the bug and the uplight, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
they did stand up there and agree to
Okay.
remove the uplighting, and they also said they would agree to follow our requirements for the exterior lighting, foot candles of the property line. So they just said
Understood,
that.
okay. So this is then just to make sure that 40% variation for the ground floor parking is in the findings of fact. I understand, thank you.
Yes. Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair. Did we get a second?
Yep.
Okay, we had a second over here by Commissioner Nanis. All right, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fettner,
Aye.
Commissioner Nanis,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Aye.
And Chair Moore.
Aye.
The ayes have it, the motion carries. This item is recommended to City Council as discussed this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is public hearing PUD-2025-00050 for a special use permit in the nature of a concurrent preliminary and final plan development, a final plat of re-subdivision and design review with modifications from city code at 2090 to 2100 Green Bay Road, and 580 to 582 Glenview Avenue. Oh, and I need to read the public hearing statement. So welcome to the regular meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. My name is Karen Moore. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right.
Sorry, call me drinking. Josh Nanis.
Steve Kirch.
David Fettner.
The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations of the City of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend to the City Council based upon the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript. In all testimony is under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards for the relief requested. For clarity of our record, only one person at a time will speak, and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort not to be repetitive in your testimony. Finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared for tonight's hearing. If additional time is needed on a matter, it will be continued until the next available agenda. With that, I open the floor for the staff of the Plan and Design Commission to read into the record proof of publication and ownership.
Proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the Offices of Community Development, 1150 Afday Road in Highland Park. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce the commission to Zubin Coleman, who's a planner too with the Community Development Department, the Planning Division, who often attends all the Historic Preservation Commission and Housing Commissions. And so he'll be presenting this. And he's been with the city for, gosh, 4 or 5 years already.
Something like that. All right, thank you, Senior Planner Burhop. As mentioned, my name is Zubin Coleman. I work in the Community Development Department for the city. So this is a PUD, plat of Reed subdivision, and design review for the proposed townhome development at the corner of Green Bay Road and Glenview Avenue. So a little project summary. This was submitted by this Berger Investment Group LLC, which is an affiliated entity with B3 Companies LLC. The project before you tonight is a 23-unit townhome development. Each townhome is 3 stories with an attached 2-car garage. This site will have 2 drive aisles with access off Green Bay Road and the public alley to the east. To the west. And there will be additional parking and landscape provided. So, like you guys saw in your packet, this will be a PUD, plat of re-subdivision, design review, and modifications from the city code as part of this PUD approval process. The existing conditions, there is currently 3 parcels on this site. The first parcel contains a vacant single-family dwelling at 582 Glenview Avenue. That is the parcel that is directly parallel to the public alley that runs north-south to the west of the site. Parcel 2 is 580 Glenview Avenue, and it also has 2 addresses, 580 Glenview Avenue at 2100 Green Bay Road. There is a vacant single-family dwelling with the Glenview address and a vacant 1-story commercial structure with the 2100 Green Bay Road address. And the third parcel runs east-west at the bottom of the screen, and that is the address of 2090 Green Bay Road, which is currently sits a vacant 1-story commercial structure. And all the 2 residential structures went to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting earlier this month, and they were approved as having no historic significance, so the demolitions can occur. Excuse me, some neighborhood context. To the north of this site, in the picture outlined in the red square, that's where this site is. It's kind of closest to the high school and where First Street splits off into Green Bay Road. Directly north of this structure is zone RM2, just like this site. There are residential uses and a commercial structure at that corner of Green Bay Road and Glenview Avenue. To the west of this site is zone R7 and is strictly single-family dwellings. To the south of this site is also zone RM2. There is a commercial structure directly south of this site, as well as some residential homes. And to the east of this site the gas station and other commercial uses, which is Zone B4-5. The PUD request, as I've stated, is for a townhome development. There will be perimeter landscaping, proposed open space, shared walkways, and access off Green Bay Road and the alleys. As you can see in the picture on the attached slide, these 23 units will be comprised into 3 separate rows, labeled Building 1 at the top, Building 2 in the middle, and Building 3 at the bottom of the screen. The first 2 buildings will have 8 units each, and the bottom Building 3 will have 7 units. The Building 2 and Building 3 will share a walkway that leads to the guest parking spaces on the southwest corner of the lot. And Building 1 at the top of the screen will have their own walkway that leads off to that public sidewalk that runs parallel to Glenview Avenue. So we'll get into the elevations of the 3 buildings. This is Building 1. As you can see, the 8 units. The units in each of the 3 buildings are comprised in Unit A, B, and C. Unit A are the inclusionary units. There's 3 of them, 1 in each of the buildings. Unit Bs are all of the middle units, and Unit Cs are the bookend units for each building. This is Building 2. Just like Building 1 has 8 units, although this has a different colorway to differentiate and break up the rhythm of the design. And then Building 3 is the only building with 7 units, and it has a similar colorway to what you saw with Building 1 at the top. So the floor plans, these are the Unit A floor plans. Like I said, the inclusionary unit floor plans. There's only 3 of these. The difference between these and the market rate units is that these are skinnier because the inclusionary code requires a minimum floor area that is less than the market rate units, but still does meet the code. They also have a tandem 2-car garage, so it will be stacked parking as opposed to side-by-side parking. The Unit B floor plans, like I said, are the middle units in buildings 1, 2, and 3 that are market rate units. And they are somewhat similar to the Unit C floor plans that you see above you. But Unit C also does have sprinkler rooms that are required per the fire department to access the fire hydrants in case of an emergency. And all these are in your agenda packet as well. So the zoning modifications, the applicant team did request a slew of modifications from the code. I'll break these up into 2 segments. The first segment is looking at our zoning code in terms of area, bulk, and density. Firstly, they are requesting relief from the front setbacks. There is a 25-foot front setback. This side technically has 2 front setbacks that runs along Glenview Avenue and along Green Bay Road. They are proposing 10 feet along Green Bay Road and 8 feet along Glenview Avenue. The rear setback technically runs parallel to the alley on the west side of the lot. They are proposing 14 feet when the required rear setback is 25 feet. The maximum lot coverage permitted via the code, via section 150.704, is 33.3%. They are proposing 47.1%. In parentheses, I put 41.1% over the requirement to depict the magnitude of the change of relief that they're requesting. And the bottom one states the required open space per the code, per section 150.520, subsection R, subsection 2, is 20%, and they were proposing 16% open space. So when looking at the setbacks, again, you see the site plan on the screen. The red rectangles depict the front yard encroachments. The rectangles aren't to scale, they're just to show you exactly where these setbacks are. At the top of the screen, the units are 8 feet from the property line, and at the side of the screen, running parallel to Green Bay Road, they are 10 feet from the property line. And again, a 25-foot front setback is required for this zoning district. The rear setback, as I stated, runs parallel with the alley, and it is 14 feet. Technically, the homes are 4 feet from the property line, but there's a special yard consideration listed in section 150.707, subsection C, subsection 1, that allows 1/2 of the alley width to count towards a required rear yard setback if it is within 25 feet of a residential zoning district. So combine half of the alley width, 20 feet wide, half of that's 10 feet in addition to the 4 feet from the property line, and that gets you the 14 feet rear setback that they are currently proposing. This open space diagram was included as part of the landscape plan in the agenda packet. The highlighted green area at the top side and between building 2 and 3 is the open space. There is a 20% requirement. They are only proposing 16%, roughly 5,760 square feet. When this site's square footage area should dictate 7,326 square feet. Now to the second set of zoning modifications. This is predominantly to Article 22 and the landscaping and screening requirements. Section 150.2225, there is a minimum 5-foot in-depth required planting area. They are proposing 3-foot minimum at the south lot line. And then section 150.2230 is the required landscaping for foundational landscaping for the different type of trees and vegetation that's required. Per staff's calculations for the total lot area, which I believe is around 36,000 square feet. There are supposed to be 18 shade/ornamental trees. They're proposing 8, and there are supposed to be 7 evergreen trees, and they are proposing none. Each unit will have a ground-mounted HVAC mechanical unit, which will be located in a coming slide I will show you. They're supposed to be screened. The applicant team is proposing not to screen these mechanical units. And lastly, section 150.2220 requires that a solid fence located along lot lines within 25 feet of a residential area be installed. They are proposing to not install a fence along the portions of the west lot line that is broken up between the parking and the drive aisles. So the landscaping plan was provided as an attachment in the agenda report. You cannot see the table at the bottom, but it does show you the landscaping table. Again, they're proposing 8 of the required 18 ornamental trees. They're proposing 0 of the required 7 evergreen trees. In total, there are required 138 shrubs, and they're over that requirement with 178. In the bottom red rectangle shows the 3-foot lot in-depth planting that is also requesting relief. There is no fence along the west lot line, and I wanted to make a note that the staff report also indicated that there wasn't a fence along the south lot line. That's incorrect. The site plan shows a fence along the south lot line, and you can't see it here. I'm gonna have to zoom in, which I can't do at the moment. When it comes to the screening requirement for HVAC ground-mounted units, the red stars on the site plan indicate each of the individual mechanical units for each of the units. They will not be screened, and they'll be located in the drive aisles next to the garages. And just as a reminder, the drive aisles is directly at the south. So basically below the bottom line of the red stars, that's one drive aisle to access the garages for building 3. And between the 2 rows of red stars at the top of the screen is the drive aisles that buildings 1 and buildings 2 would access either through a Green Bay Road or the alley. This slide contains materials. Again, you can't read what these materials say from your seats, but they were included as part of the agenda packet. There will be alternating designs, like I said, between building 1 and 3 and building 2. There will be a series of fiber cement siding, 2 shades of brick, and all the units will have a similar color of natural shade stucco and black metal with asphalt shingle gray roof. The off-street parking and loaded Loading for townhome units that are 2 bedrooms or more, you have to require 2 spaces per unit. For 23 units, 46 spaces are required, and each unit does have 2 spaces. For the guest parking spaces, you only count the market rate units. It's a requirement of 0.25 spaces per market rate unit. Since there's 20 of those units, excluding the 3 inclusionary, that equates to 5 guest parking spaces, which they are providing along the west lot line. This picture was flipped at a 90-degree angle to just show the spaces and make it fit on the screen. As for the public benefit, the applicant proposed a public benefit summary, which was included in your agenda report. And it included the improved landscape and plantings, improved roads and public alley, sewer improvements, sidewalks, and walkways within the development. Staff does note that these are requirements of the code and that we're still reviewing the adequacy of the proposed public benefit, and that a further determination will come at a subsequent PDC meeting as to the legitimacy of those public benefits. The design review, there was a design review section in your staff report. Some of the zoning relief does pertain to the design review elements, such as relief for the landscaping, the setbacks of the site plans, and the fence along the west lot line. A plat of re-subdivision is included in this, and the applicant will have to provide easements for utilities and ingress and egress. The applicant will also have to bury the utility lines per section 151.008 subsection B subsection 7. I will work with the applicant team to make sure they are aware of that moving forward in this review approval process. But the proposed plat of re-subdivision, which is consolidating those 3 separate parcels into one for this lot, it complies with the rest of the Chapter 151 subdivision requirements. The Housing Commission review, as I've stated, there are proposed 3 inclusionary units. The inclusionary unit calculator equated 3.6 units. As we know, you can't build a decimal of an inclusionary unit, but you can by right pay that fee in lieu for that partial unit. So the applicant team will propose to pay $111,240 payment in lieu fee to the Housing Trust Fund. And this will be preliminary reviewed at tomorrow's special Housing Commission meeting. And the staff report at a subsequent PDC meeting will include the preliminary decision made by the Housing Commission at tomorrow night. And just some other comments. Staff is still awaiting the third-party review for the traffic impact study that was submitted for this site. The interdepartmental comments were included towards the end of the staff report. I trust the commissioners read that. And public comments were submitted after posting. Staff only received 1 public comment today from Sarah Gimble that was sent to the commissioners and sent to the applicant team. So it's the recommendation that this, again, is a preliminary PUD. If it proceeds, it will come back for a final PUD, and the commission should open the hearing, take testimony, consider the application, and deliberate. Staff and to either, draft findings or fact or to continue the meeting. We do have the applicant team represented by attorney Anthony Oakes in the crowd, but I'm welcome to take any questions if there are any.
All right, do we have any questions for staff yet?
I had one question. The current front yard setbacks on Green Bay and on Glenview, I probably missed it. Do we have the averages in there on both of those streets? The average front yard setbacks for Green Bay and for Glenview?
Are you talking about just for this site or for
just for the front yard setbacks?
Yeah. So
what the current averages are?
Are you talking about for the existing structures right now?
Yeah.
I do not have those averages.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Yes, please.
So if the commission would like to know that, that's of course something that's, they can ask the applicant to provide. I just wanted to address as I try to scroll to it on my computer.
It's a pretty big encroachment, so I just wanted to see what the existing structures are over there.
Okay. I believe that the structure on Green Bay Road, the existing vacant structure, is pretty close to it.
Yeah, those look like they're right on there.
But those two single-family dwellings, I just reviewed them at HPC, they are a little far back,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can get those to you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, the 582 and 580 Glenview, I'm
Right.
curious to know what those are.
Attorney Anthony Oaks.
Yeah, so the only thing I was going to say about that is, of course, if the commission wants that, that's an excellent point in order to understand that. The only reason staff hadn't required that is just because I was just, the established building setback with, I know Commissioner Fettner probably knows about being on the board, zoning board of appeals for so long, that's only required in single-family residential zoning districts. It's not to suggest that cannot be provided here, given the context.
Yeah, it would just help on the context.
Yeah.
I mean, it does look like the two on Green Bay are right up against the property line. But the Glenview, I'm just curious to know if you had it. No big deal.
And it looks like the applicant's attorney might have that information.
I have that. We included.
Wait. Before you start, can you please swear, we need to swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name and spell your last name
Anthony Oaks, OCHS.
and your position, you are the attorney.
I am the attorney for the applicant, current owner of the property. And included in our application is an Alta survey that shows the existing improvements. Specifically on Green Bay Road, there's two commercial buildings that abut the property. The one that addresses 2100 Green Bay Road, that has a front yard setback of 2.88 feet.
Okay.
And the one that's that's more south, 2090, it's right on the property line.
Okay. And then 582 and 580 Glenview?
Okay, so 580 and 582, those have, those are the residential buildings.
Yeah.
They are about 2465 feet, and 2408 feet front yard setbacks.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
You can see it right there, Madam Chair, on the right, the building right. The
Yes.
the homes and then the other building at the southern part.
Correct. Okay, do we have any questions for?
I have a
Well,
quick question for the
whoever.
staff. In regards to the lot coverage percentages, I'm assuming that is only in consideration of the physical buildings. It doesn't take into account the tri-vials. Those are calculated separately, or?
Lot coverage by definition, I always pull these open, even though I have them memorized by now. I'm never wrong if I pull open the code and
I
just
haven't been
read
here
it.
long enough to memorize them yet,
So lot coverage is limited by definition in the code to the area of a lot that is covered by principal and/or accessory buildings. So that information which was presented are only the buildings, not the sidewalks, drive aisles,
Perfect,
alleyways.
that's what I thought. Just wanted to confirm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions for staff anymore? Okay, if the applicant would like to come up and present anything additional.
Yes, we do. First off, thank you so much for presenting, and thank you so much, staff member Zubin. That was great. We don't have much more to add. What I do want to just present is that we have had preliminary meetings with staff, the fire chief, the building department, and in our initial application, we submitted a site plan that after meeting with staff, we've already updated and addressed comments specifically brought to it. We are here to hear what the board has to say, and we're here to work with Highland Park staff to get this completed. One other item I wanted to bring up was earlier last week, and it was mentioned in the staff members report, that the two existing residential buildings, they were previously designated as historical landmarks, but in 2022, with the prior ownership, they failed landmark criteria and were given permission by the historical landmark board to be demolished. Given the change in ownership and given the time elapsed, we had to reapply for that, and that again was approved to not meet landmark criteria and get the okay from the board. It does, the property has experienced some historical vacancy, and it was commented at that hearing about the physical condition of those buildings, that some significant work would have to be done. And our proposed development is to remove the existing improvements and add brand new improvements, along with underground improvements to better the site. Our architect and engineering team is here to answer any questions that staff may have. Again, we're here to work with staff to go through this process.
Just point of clarification.
Yes, Director Fontaine.
They were not considered landmarks. I want to say that.
It failed landmark criteria.
Correct.
Yeah, to meet the
Correct.
landmark
Somebody
criteria.
must have hoped that it would be, but then it did not pass the
Yes.
requirements. Yes, understood.
Correct, and yeah, it's not even that. The commission made a decision at one point, didn't meet the criteria. The applicant at that time did not pursue the demolition in enough time, and therefore was taken back to the commission for an additional consideration, in which they found the same again.
Okay.
To be clear about that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we have any questions for the applicant?
I'd like to ask about the water main. I noticed the city engineer says that the 6-inch main on Green Bay may not be suitable for this size development. Do you guys have an answer on that?
Yes, I believe we prepared responses, but Kevin Lewis from IG Consulting, he's our engineer. He would be better to answer that question.
All right, come on up, let me swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, wonderful. Please state your name and spell your last name. Give your title so that we can.
Sure. I'm Kevin Lewis, Lewis. I'm the president of IG Consulting. We provide the site civil engineering surveying for this project. And we worked with staff and engineering regarding this. Subsequent to staff's concern or question, I think engineering staff raised it was a question, would the size of the water main be sufficient? We've subsequently done testing of the water main and the sizing for fire suppression for the buildings. Each of the 3 buildings will have their own service coming in off Green Bay Road. They've been sized preliminarily based upon that. That would support both domestic water service and fire suppression for each of the 3 separate buildings.
Okay.
Can someone explain to me what the thinking went into in designing the inclusionary units to look unlike any of the other units in the building?
I'm going to defer to the architect on that one.
I'll hit him.
Getting everybody. All right, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You bet.
All right, name and.
Mark Kurinsky, Kurensky. I'm president of HKM Architects and Planners. I don't know if you can put the plan up. I guess if you could repeat the question, if you've got just one of the elevations.
I'm curious as to what the thinking was that you designed separate inclusionary units that look nothing, that are smaller than the others and that are easy to distinguish.
I guess with all due respect, which one's the inclusionary one in that elevation?
The one that has the tandem garage, which is narrower than all the other ones.
I'm asking for the front elevation because again, I'm not trying to.
The rear elevation, how about, where the garage door is not as wide as, I'm just asking the question, why would you do that instead of just creating units and then designating the affordable ones?
And actually, we actually think that the elevation on the front and the back, we actually think the elevation on the front, and I wasn't being facetious, where is that inclusionary unit? Because what we did was we took the narrower unit, which is hard to tell, and we've hidden it in the middle. If you look at the end, you see those 3 darker gable ends. They're all the same width, that 15-ish foot width. You've got it at the far left, the far right, and then one in the middle, or off center in the middle. Which only one of those is an inclusionary unit. So the challenge we have when you do inclusionary, as you guys know, is you're trying to provide an affordable or more achievable, whatever terms you want to use, for the architecture. And one of the ways to do that is have reduced square footage. You can also, per your code, you can reduce the quality of the interiors. We're not doing that. We're not changing anything other than the width of the unit. And that's a way to keep the cost down. So it's a slightly smaller square footage. It still exceeds the inclusionary. And I know tonight is not an inclusionary meeting. But what we did was said, I look at that and say, you've got 3 units there, and I can't tell you from a distance which one is an inclusionary unit. So if you go to the back, you've got a bunch of 2-car garages, but that whole middle section in the back, I can see 2 windows on the 3rd floor, 2 windows. You've got 2 windows, but they're grouped together. So I'm not saying you can't find them, but this isn't, it's a little bit of Where's Waldo, and we're doing our best to minimize the difference. And the code permits you to have, we're a 15-foot something versus a 20-foot in terms of the width. So it was intentionally trying to blend it to make it fit into the site, not to make it stand out.
Well, let's just talk about some of the other, besides the setbacks and, the other relief you're looking for on the lack of open space. Isn't this project too dense for this site?
So here, you guys used the term on the last presentation that we sat there, said it's a difficult site. You've got another challenging site here. So if you take a step back and look at it, and we've all driven past this site for a long time, and we looked at the context. We looked at the building directly across the street at the northwest corner of the site, and we've got a garage and a 0 lot line industrial-ish looking building right across the street. We have 0 lot line directly across Green Bay with a series of garage doors. We have the UPS store, which has a parking lot right on Green Bay with no landscape hiding the parking lot. So we've got a difficult site in terms of context to transition to residential in this case. We have an alley that creates a natural transition to the residential, plus we've got some industrial or some commercial use garages on the alley as well. So what we first did is said, how are we going to create an environment here that works within that section of Green Bay? So if I was going to live there, if one of my family members were going to live there, we said, let's create an internal court off of Green Bay so we don't have somebody living right on that stretch of Green Bay Road. So that started to set the orientation of these buildings. We then set the building on the north side on McGovern and said, we've got a 0 lot line, what's an appropriate distance? Then we looked also at, and so we started with that as a programmatic starting point. So then you have to create access. We could have made smaller units, but we're trying to find that balance of what is the market and what works. So that's where we all started. We started as a more urban townhome approach versus a R7 residential approach, which is sort of west of us as you head over towards the hospital. That was the approach in terms of this site is still under, your zoning code allows for more units without even getting credit for the bonus for inclusionary housing. So from the zoning standpoint of what's a by right, we could actually put more density on the site. So we could have put more smaller units on the site, but we didn't think that was appropriate in scale and mass for the site, the context, and the market.
Do you have any other renderings that maybe better show the colors and materials of it?
I've got samples back there, if your color screen, every computer.
I hope it doesn't actually look like that, if that's what you're proposing, is my...
We're using, okay, we're in the cool colors of the natural taupe and the dark and the grays. So I've got the brick samples there if you'd like me to bring them up.
Oh, we would.
Yeah.
Good, I didn't carry them all this way.
That's right.
I'll take it. Are there more things? Sure.
So there's two different bricks that are complementary to each other. It's in the cooler tones. We're staying away from the reds. Thank you.
That was it for my questions,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Was there any consideration of below-grade parking? Because again, there's a lot of very minimal green space in a lot of, a lot of driveways and parking. Was there any thought by putting everything below grade, have a single, ingress and egress, and then having more green space?
No,
for the spot?
the site is really small. So if you're going to go below grade, you need a ramp to get down, and that's ignoring what he's going to stare at me and saying the cost is going to make it prohibitive. It just doesn't work. I mean, you just approved a 6-story building that had at-grade parking, just because digging down is prohibitively expensive.
I have a question that relates to the parking also.
Sure.
Parking. So, 5 parking spots on site, correct?
Correct.
And there's 46 off-site parking. Is that what I said?
Correct.
And that, I guess, would be mainly on Glenview?
Well, there's 46 garages,
There's
and then
46.
there's 5 on-site guest parking on the
So-
site. So there's a total of 51 spots for the 23 units.
Have you figured out how much street parking there is available? Because there's a lot, we've had an issue with other developments where even though it's allowable, there's 5 spots, 6 spots on site, but there's really, once people start coming in for holidays or for functions, there's no parking. And that's a complaint we hear quite often. And then I'm just worried about on Glenview, if that's really the only place to park, what's gonna happen? I don't know, I'm just asking, because I don't know what the street parking access is like over there.
The staff can do a better job than I can answering street parking, but we looked at your code and said, here's the standards that you have set, and said, here's the city standard, and we're meeting the city
Right,
standard.
I'm just thinking functionally, right? What's, in a year from now or 2 years from now, are we gonna hear a lot of complaints that Glenview's just a mess with parking because, we have this new development here and there's no place really to park on site except for 5 spots. And then one other question, there's no screening around the mechanicals. Is there a reason why? Is it being screened some other way?
No, at the end of the day, we can put a lattice box around the mechanic. The only thing we're talking about is down at the grade, the, air handler.
Okay.
So, we just assume at some point they're still visible, but if you wanted a lattice box built around it, that's something we can
I think for
consider.
a future, meeting, I would like to see something, but I think my main concern is the parking. I think that's just something I'll have to try to get through.
I guess the benefit is that all those AC units are kind of internal to the project, so it's not like people walking by are gonna see them.
Right. Screenings, I think it's required in our code.
Yeah, no, I
I
know.
may as well do it, yeah.
Yeah, the materials don't really match the renderings you guys have up there, so possibly for the next meeting, because that looks black and white, and these are obviously.
I blame it on your computer screen. No,
mean,
all
so-
joking aside, every computer screen in our office, we have color shift. Color shift is a huge problem. So when you say bring samples, it really helps because it's a huge issue of color shift. Even sending the images to our client, it's a color shift.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see like a rent, as close as humanly possible, because again, like on my computer at home, it was off.
I'll bring it my computer
Yeah.
because it's a lot closer than this.
Well, and yes, it would be helpful to know like what's going where,
Yeah.
so.
Even if you come stand and look at this monitor, you
Yeah.
can start to see the color shift.
Right, I just don't know which of the brick is going where on the design.
We will clarify it. And
Okay.
if I have to bring a laptop and walk it around with a better color shift, I'd be happy to. It weighs less than the brick anyway.
I was just thinking if you had like a foam core board with with the picture and then like a line to each one of the items,
Yep.
Kind kind of like what you have here, but, you know,
Yeah, additionally, if we can see like renderings from Green Bay Road and from Glenview.
Glenview.
Just to kind of understand how this fits, contextually in the neighborhood, because all we've seen is, obviously nothing with any context and then just overhead sort of site plans. So it'd be nice to, try to understand how this would look, from a neighborhood context as you're going down Green Bay or Glenview.
The same setup.
right.
Thanks. Yep.
Okay, yes, Director Fontaine.
I just want to just make mention, per Commissioner Kirsch's comments. So the Housing Commission will be reviewing this, and their report/recommendation will be provided to you before you conclude your public hearings on this matter.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on their
No, I
authority, but
just want to make sure that everyone knows that's going to be coming forth to you.
Okay,
can we discuss the public benefit?
sure. Do you want to ask them what the public benefit?
Yeah,
you're planning
since
to offer?
since every one of the public benefits you folks have put up there is not a public benefit, I'm wondering what you are going to propose.
We are installing trees within the right-of-way, and we are redoing the public alley and adding improvements underneath the public alley.
Right, but I believe staff says that all of that is required for your development. That doesn't count as a public benefit.
We don't, as noted in the staff report, we don't get any credit in terms of the plantings that we make in the right-of-way. So every planting we make in the right-of-way doesn't get included in our, meeting the landscaping code. So that's why we have relief that we are requesting. So we are adding the plantings within the right-of-way, which we believe will help beautify the site. And if
The big question, I guess, in public benefit, and it's sort of, is we've got a site that's been underutilized for a long time, and is a less than, the most visually pleasing site. And so there's just, at some point, your group, and city council are gonna have to make a decision. There's here's a potential way to clean this site up, to provide inclusionary housing in a townhome, so not just an apartment, to provide inclusionary townhomes and to provide townhomes with all the other benefits for the general market in this area. So, I can't tell you if you think that is good for your city or not. We think it is a benefit to the city in the general context of what this parcel is and what it's been doing for a long time. And it's underutilized and it's, somewhat of an eyesore. So that's the general public and the benefit, that's what we're trying to provide.
So,
Dr. Fontaine.
So just, remedying property maintenance concerns is not a public benefit. So, right, so at some point that becomes its own enforcement consideration for our office. So I just wanted to make that clear too. And then in terms of plantings in the right of way, well, that might offset, there may be a mitigating factor in the relief they're asking for. So they're going to put them in the right of way, whether or not that's considered a public benefit or merely mitigating the relief that they're getting for their, you can look at that in two different ways there. But to the extent that this is otherwise required to mitigate the impacts of the development itself, like for instance, upgrading the water line because there's not enough capacity to serve the development, that is not a public benefit. So staff will go through this in more detail and report back to you on those, and we'll discuss more with the applicant, some other types of public benefits that might be appropriate.
Did I see somewhere in the staff report that was comparing this to the Bloom Street development that we just did?
I believe that was, excuse me, I believe that was in there at first, and That was originally proposed because Bloom Street Development, they did improve alleyway as part of a public benefit, but I don't think that alleyway was technically part of the ingress and egress of that development. And they also, I know, had a public art statue as well as like a little plaza, if I remember
Right, a
correctly.
little pocket park.
Right.
No, I was just, it would be interesting to see, in terms of like density, and we're talking about the setbacks, the amount of open space, how those two compared.
I'll make that note in the next report with exactly what the public benefit was and how.
Well, I'm less concerned about public benefit for that, but, it would be interesting, because it sounds like the commission is thinking that this particular development is maybe a little big for the spot that it's on in terms of not being able to get the open space that's required, in terms of having to expand into all the setbacks. And I would just be curious to know, numbers-wise, how it compares to that Bloom Street development.
And we'll provide a side-by-side comparison.
That would be
for the
great.
Commission. I think that's warranted. That makes sense. I just want to point out that zoning district is an RM1, and I
Right.
believe this is an RM2.
Right,
Okay, so that this zoning district allows for twice the density of that zoning district. I just
Okay.
want to
Well, thank you for that,
Start
too.
off with that, but
Right.
we will provide
Thank you
that
for that,
information
too.
for you, but I just want to make that clear.
so, Councilmember Littlewood, did you have another question?
No, I'm just very glad for Director Fontaine's clarifications, because I think they're very significant, both in terms of public benefit and density.
Right.
Density is permitted under our guidelines,
Right.
and public benefit is also defined, and so thank you for those clarifications.
Okay, does the commission have any more questions at this moment for either staff or the applicant?
No, so I'm not against the development here at all. My one concern is just the parking. Maybe we can have more information next time about, available parking on the street.
Right,
We'll provide the on-street parking regulations in the area as well.
And to be clear, Planner 2, Coleman did state that the city was still looking to get back their traffic impact
Right.
study comments from our city's third-party reviewer. So those will also be forthcoming as well.
Great, thanks.
okay. Do you have any questions from the public or comments? Please come up and we'll swear you in. You can take your turns. You don't have to all stand up there and wait. Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Okay, and what's your name, please?
Laura Mosden,
Okay, and please spell it.
Mozdzen. First name is just Laura.
Okay. All right, you have 3 minutes.
All right, I have kind of a lot of questions, so I'm just gonna go through them and then you guys can
Okay.
answer at the end. I wanted to know whether they were rental or owner occupied units. I was really curious about the landscaping too, so I know right now there's kind of like these nice bushes that, I mean, they do go up against a chain link fence, but every time I walk my dogs by them, I feel like they're nice. And it does just kind of feel a little bit like there's not a lot of green space. There's not a lot of outdoor space either. Like the balconies seem a little bit small too, and so I'm just wondering if you have 23 families there, like where are they gonna spend their outdoor time? Especially summers here are beautiful, so. Parking, also a big concern on that one. So I'm actually wondering if you guys have talked to the hospital about it, because there's no parking on the streets to keep the streets clear for ambulances. So I know even when I have people over, it's more than 2 people, they can't park on the street and they can't park nearby. They have to park somewhere else and walk. I also wanted to know whether there were any updates planned to the storm sewer. So if you get a lot of rain, our backyard's the one that floods, and we did an improvement project for our property to plug into the city storm sewer. But if that property that's a lot of green space right now stops actually going into the ground and starts going into the storm sewer, that storm sewer also backs up quite a bit. I have to call, I think, every year to get them to unplug it, so I don't know if that's something that you guys have checked to see whether it can hold that too. I wanted to know whether there was any sidewalk planned on the alleyway. If there were any ADA accessible units, that's probably not a requirement, but I was just curious. I was also curious as to if there was a proposed sale price, if they were owner occupied. I think that's about it. So it was a lot. Oh, wait, sorry, one last question. You did talk about the thought process that went in from the transition from commercial into the townhouse unit, but I'm wondering about that transition from the townhouse unit to the rest of the residential street. I can repeat any questions if you need it, but that's it.
Okay, do you guys want to come up and answer that? I've written down most of those questions.
I'm wondering to save time if we just collect all of the neighborhood questions, because my guess is there'll be some overlap, but then
That's
we can
fine.
try and respond.
That's fine. Okay, anybody else from the public, please come on up. Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name and spell your last name.
My name is Larry Green, color green. Couldn't afford the extra vowel. First, the question about parking is an interesting one. Glenview is an emergency entrance to the hospital, and there is no parking permitted on the street. Occasionally there are cars there and they periodically get ticketed, but as Laura said, parking is an issue on the block. Even we're a 16-unit condo at 619 Glenview Avenue, and there are times when we don't have sufficient parking, even though we have a lot, both in front and in back, and underground parking for residents. So traffic is an issue there. In fact, one of the major concerns we have is the egress and getting in and off of Green Bay, which can be a challenge, especially during afternoon rush hour and during the morning. It's virtually impossible to make a left-hand turn onto Green Bay at times without a generous person letting you in. And there aren't that many generous people. However, we're delighted that someone's doing something with this property. It's been vacant. I've lived in the building now 13, 14 years, and almost the entire time the property has been vacant. And it'd be nice to have some development down there. But the addition of the parking issue and the addition of another 50 cars trying to get in and out of onto Green Bay in the morning and afternoon can be challenging. Glenview is used for visitors to the hospital. We have a lot of ambulances that mostly come from the north and use Glenview to get to one of the 3 emergency entrances to the hospital. One is at the west end of our street. And in addition to that, we have regular traffic from visitors to the hospital, both pedestrians and vehicles, and deliveries to the hospital. We have semis that come by in the morning, dropping off supplies at the hospital. We also have a lot of pedestrian traffic on our street. Dog walkers, Laura being one of them. We have kids heading to school in the morning. We have a number of elderly people in the neighborhood who are out walking every day, and in some cases, especially in winter, wind up walking in the street because the sidewalks aren't always clear. So pedestrian traffic is in addition to our concerns over vehicle traffic. One of the issues with pedestrians is how close this development comes to the public sidewalk at Building 1. The setback there they've asked for a variation of the setback. And I noticed in the Bloom Street development, you were able to maintain a setback that allowed for lawns in those townhouses. That's not going to be the case on, at least as proposed now, that would not be the case on Glenview. The other part of the setback issue is it changes the character of the neighborhood. If you look at Glenview, which is only a block long, almost every house has a front lawn. And we think that the lack of vegetation is a negative at this site. And I think that pretty much concludes the issues that we have.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, anybody else? Please come on up. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, name please.
Christina Tamhane, T-A-M, yes, C-H-R-I-S-T-I-N-A, T-A-M, yes, H-A-N-E, yes. So like some of my neighbors, my concerns are also the lack of setback, the lot coverage. The current area is very open, as you could see from the aerial view. It's green. I also walk past those lots all the time. It's very open and green. I'm also happy that they're doing something with it, but it just seems that I don't know how you could stuff that much building into such a small lot with very, very little green space. I'm also out and about in the neighborhood a lot. It is a very active area. There are a lot of people out. I'm out there with my kids waiting for the school bus. There are elderly people walking around. There's just a lot going on. I also want to bring up, as you look at the traffic concerns for the area, the fact that the lot directly south to this proposed townhome complex is a UPS store with a very strange and confusing traffic flow in and out of Green Bay. There's only one entrance. You can only move one way through the parking lot, and then there's one exit right onto the corner of Homewood and Green Bay. So if you have people entering and exiting this townhome area in and out of Green Bay, you're getting very close to the only entrance to that UPS store. And I'll tell you, as someone who walks by that UPS store a lot, the public is very confused about how to enter and exit that area. And so I would be fearful that having another entrance and exit in and off of Green Bay Road so close would be a little worrisome, with people not sure where they're making a left into the UPS store, so they're not looking for someone making a right out onto Green Bay, and then we could have some problems. So just concerns about the traffic and how much building is happening on such a small unit. We would love to see, or I would love to see, more green space, more trees planted closer to what kind of the setbacks are meant to be for that area. Something a little bit more blendable with the rest of the neighborhood as you move west into, between Green Bay and the hospital. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? And then I guess I'll quickly mention that we did receive one comment in the email, right? About the concern for basically the vision on the sidewalk with the two driveways in and out of the property. So I assume that the traffic people will come back with that as well. All right, hang on a second. If you have one more question, please come up, because you already went over your time.
I don't know if this falls within your range of responsibilities, but one thing you might consider is the installation of a left turn lane between Elm and Vine on Green Bay, which would alleviate a lot of the, I believe, alleviate some of the traffic issues that we have on Glenview.
Okay, well, we can mark that down and get that to the, that comes out of the traffic study. They would recommend that if they felt that that was something necessary to do.
Thank you.
Okay, would the applicant like to come up and answer some of these questions? Which I don't know that you'll be able to answer them all, but you have heard them.
We appreciate all the comments from the neighbors. We are taking them into consideration. We also, I do want to point out, we did have a traffic study prepared, but staff is still reviewing it.
Yeah.
So, and that's been an attachment, so I don't want to add to that, but we don't believe that any traffic would be impacted by the creation of the development of our site. But we appreciate the staff's comments, we appreciate the comments from the neighbors, and we're taking them all into advisement and we'll address accordingly.
Okay, so one of the questions was that, were they going to be rental units or owner occupied?
I can answer that one. Yeah, absolutely. They are rental units.
Okay. All right, and, so I would think too that as you further the plans that you'd be taking in mind, if you were gonna plan to put trees into the parkway, is that gonna affect the sight lines up and down the street for the driveways, people getting in and out and people being able to see people coming in and out?
That's where I think we holistically want to take all the comments into consideration.
Right. I'm just making sure we got that. I presume you'll have to provide some kind of drainage study for the property, like where's all the water going?
Sure, I can just tackle that quickly for you.
Okay.
We definitely are. In fact, we've worked with staff already on sizing that system, and in between the units, we're providing a below-grade chamber system that would restrict water, so we're going to collect all of our stormwater on site, and we're also, as part of the site, going to then control that water and the release so that it will provide stormwater management for area, restricting our release into the public sewer system.
Well, the storm sewer system.
The storm sewer system, yes, which is separate from the sanitary, you are correct.
Yes, I'm a homeowner here, so I know all about that. There was a question about whether or not there'd be any ADA accessible units. I honestly don't think that's a requirement, but we were just curious.
No, it's not. I mean, they're three-story units, so you've
Right.
seen the floor plan, so.
Right, there's no elevator, okay. All right, all right, we'll wait and see what the parking study comes back as. All right, so you've heard what everyone has to, what your neighbors have had to say. You've heard to some extent what we've had to say. It looks like people are kind of looking for a little more green space, so if there's a way to do that, that'd be great. Do we have any last comments? Okay, so I think what we'd be looking for is a motion to continue this meeting. I don't think we're ready to make a design review approval or.
Okay. So the next upcoming meetings then that the commission could consider this, they could either continue it 3 weeks to the Tuesday, May 6th commission meeting, or if the applicant needs additional time to prepare, you could also continue it to the June 3rd Tuesday meeting.
Prefer May 6th, if that's possible.
That's fine with me, so,
Madam Chairman, I would move that we continue this public hearing to May 6th regular meeting.
okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, so Motion by Vice Chair Kirch, seconded by Commissioner Nanas. What?
Voice.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays? No, so we will continue this meeting till Tuesday, May 6th, here in Chambers.
Tuesday, May 6th, 7 PM in City Council chambers, this room. There'll be no notice, no additional notice. Your notice is actual. Okay, this has been continued to May 6th, 7 PM, City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. If you're planning to leave, that's fine, but please keep it down because all the noise filters up through the stairwell and into the chamber, and then we can't finish the meeting.
And Madam Chair, we'll provide additional information on Bloom development, as well as developments to the north and to the south of this. Both one's 44 units, the other 62 units. So we'll provide some context on those developments as well.
Wonderful, thank you so much. All right, moving on to other business.
I don't have any.
Okay, do we have an administrative design review update?
So for administrative design review, there was a landscaping plan approved that complies with city code as well as the prior PUD for it's formerly called the senior center. It's now the Moraine. It's where we had and will have another special meeting. And then, I'm sorry, Director, was the other one for a school? I don't recall.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't have the update on that. I'll have to provide.
Okay, the only one that I had was just the landscaping plan for the former senior center,
Okay.
now the Marine.
Alrighty, our next regular meeting is May 6th, and as we've just said, we're gonna have, the Glenview Green Bay Townhome Project again. What else might be on that agenda?
So that's one of those meetings that falls not 2 weeks away, but 3 weeks away.
Right.
And so there are still items that may or may not make that agenda. But yes, correct, the item that was continued tonight will be on that agenda. And then there was another item, I believe, Laurel Park 2, which may have the same, some if not all the same consultants, so they timed that well, I guess. 'cause
That's why
that one-
everybody seemed familiar.
That one was continued
But
to that
that's
meeting
one in.
date as well. And then forgive me again, I'm not suggesting there may not be other items. This just falls into a weird time period where, if it was 2 weeks out, we would know for notice
Right.
purposes, but there's still
No,
some
that's fine.
time pending.
Okay, is there a case briefing we should be aware of?
Yes, if you just give me a moment, okay. So, City Council last night voted to approve an ordinance related to storage containers, storage container regulations that were recommended by the PDC. It was modified on the floor to include an exception for governmental entities where the storage containers are sufficiently screened from view from the public way. So that was something that was done by council on the floor for this particular item, but the rest was included as recommended. A resolution regarding the use of property for towing and impound lots was also approved as recommended. And an ordinance amending the special use permit for the Community Recreation Center, Park District building that's going up now. That amendment was approved as well. So that building's under construction, just for your information. Given the need for the amendment, the permit set was broken into two, a footing and foundation and a superstructure permit. So the footing and foundation was issued and the superstructure will be issued tomorrow based on the approvals that council had granted. So that project is underway and moving along. Those are the updates, Madam Chair.
Wonderful, thank you so very much. Okay. Is there any business from the public? All eyes are on you, or one member of the public remaining. Okay.
This is your chance.
This is your chance. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Seconded, all in favor? Aye. Any nays?